individually, but the information is out there. It's not like made up or something. So let's talk about the kingdom of Prester John. So first of all, what is Prester John? Who is Prester John? He was called Prester John, Presbyter Johannes, Prete Gianni, and many more names. He was believed to be a Christian ruler in a land far away from Europe, where he ruled as a theocrat under the word of God, despite not having contacts with the Catholic Church. Of course, this is in the setting of medieval times, so if you were a Christian, you kind of had to have contacts with the Catholic Church. Even the Orthodox Christians, which were the Christians that developed after 1054, so in the Eastern Roman Empire and the Slavic populations up here, still had contacts with the Catholic Church, even if they were not really good contacts. But to have a Christian realm, a big empire that was Christian, and not be anywhere near Europe, and also not be linked with the Pope, the papacy, and the Catholicism, was something crazy to medieval Europe and medieval Christianity as a whole. So it just didn't make sense. But yet they all knew something like that existed. So it was crazy, but they did not know where it was. And this is where basically this whole thing comes to mind when it comes to this kingdom of Prester John. So is it possible that Azania was not here, but was actually outside of the second ring? And is it possible that the kingdom of Prester John was not where we are going to see that it was proposed it was, but it was actually right here? So first of all, let's see basically something about this Prester John. His wealth and power were unmatched in legend, and the only thing about him more famous than them were his animosity towards the Mohammedans, the Muslims, since he was said to be surrounded by them, and his country's existence at stake. So what does that mean? Basically, it means that Prester John was not only a single figure, but it was also some kind of dynastic role, like a leadership role, like you would call a king or an emperor or something like that. So it was not a single person in a single time period, but something that existed for centuries. And it was also something that was at odds with the Muslim powers of the area. The question is, what if the Muslim powers were able to just defeat him and he was forced to flee? So next from that, let's see his proposed location on maps, because of course this is not only a matter of what he was, who he was, but also where he was, because of course Europe had heard about this Prester John, they had heard about this Christian empire, but it was not sure where he actually was and where this Christian empire was even located. So when it comes to his location, there is much debate to be had. Some during the Middle Ages identified his realm with the ones in Tartaria and Mongolia. We just did a video on Tartaria, the second last video we did, and it was basically this area right here, basically what I'm doing with my mouse here, and it's basically the area of modern day Siberia, also this area here in Russia, also this area here in the Turkic steppes, and all the way to Manchuria and northern China. Basically it's this entire area. So it was proposed that it was there or in Mongolia, because they did have some Khans, so some rulers of these areas which were Christians and which is documented on.
We're talking Hebrews, Jack, but yeah, he said some Khans, right? So this is his theory, of why there would be a Prester John land outside the ice wall. And of course we know, that this vortex, this portals, everything connecting these lands and all that. And also, back to the Marvel flow, if he's in suspended animation, he was put back in the past. So, some have theorized that the further you get outside the ice ring, it's like going back in the past or going towards the future, depending on which way you go. Kind of like, time zones, New York to LA, 3-hour time difference. One's in the past, one's in the future type of thing. The further you go, you might be going more towards the future, more towards the past. It's all one big clock, they say. A little more for the dismount.
So we know this was something real, but then there's also the other proposals which are even in India and China, and according to John of Pian del Carpine, it was a Chinese prince which controlled the entire area of China, included the area of the I think it was the Azure River, something like that. And this whole thing was kind of weird and probably improbable because we don't really know about any Christian ruler of China. There are no accounts in Chinese history about anything like that, so it doesn't make that much sense. Finally, the third account is actually the most believable, the most famous and widely accepted.
You don't need that account of India unless you're thinking India superior. And if you think about a Hebrew Khan of India superior, now we see it clearly. But a Christian king in India doesn't make sense. But a Hebrew Khan in India superior makes perfect sense because we see clearly. Disma.
Accepted proposal location was Ethiopia, and he was seen by many as the emperor of Ethiopia, or of the Christian African realms north of it, like Makuria and Alodia. So we're talking about the realms in Ethiopia right here, or the realms right above it, so in the region that was once called Nubia. So now we're going into African history, of course. I don't want to dwell too much on this because, of course, we have to focus on the map, but of course, this means that basically this kingdom of Prester John was something that was very widely identified with Ethiopia, but this was not a direct identification because it was mostly made after Europeans had actually started to get contacts with Ethiopia, because of course there was a whole part of history where Ethiopia, the Christian empire of Ethiopia, and Europe were divided by the entirety of the Muslim states of the area. So they just kind of identified these theories with the facts that were at hand, and of course identified Ethiopia with the kingdom of Prester John, although there is no proof about this. And therefore this map comes to mind. So the theory the map is trying to propose is that Azania, or the kingdom of Prester John, was not only in this area, it probably was somewhere outside of Europe, but the Muslims won. So the Islamic empires won in their fight against the Christian powers of the area, and the Christians had to flee. So where to flee when everywhere else?
Why not go to America? Why not go to America? Right, but then you got to uncover the forbidden histories of America, the More War, Kalalus, Sylvanus, Texas, all the way to Tecumseh, until all the way to you, Manaka, today. Right, we're talking India superior. But following the same flow, did the Prester flee from the Genghis Khan situation? Was it his time to step down type of thing, Did we deserve a shepherd? Or was it our time to be in solitary? Hosea 3.
Else is surrounded by Muslim, you had to go at sea. And somehow, in some way or matter, they managed to traverse the Sentinel's Gate, go all the way out of the first ring, and finally escape into the second ring. And finally settle in Azania, the kingdom of Prester John. So they rebuilt the kingdom of Prester John into a realm in the second ring. So that,
or it was already here. Why would you say rebuilt it? Why can't he just have different lands and vortexes? India superior, emperor of the three Indias. Is this one of the Indias? Is all this connected? This is the levitating continent, man. This is heaven's gate. And Cahokia, right? Just like the Cahokia Mounds. Indigenous truth. One more minute.
that is the hypothesis that is being proposed in this map, and I kind of love it because it would mean that somewhere, the kingdom of Prester John is still able to exist, and there's a Christian power outside of the second ring. So now that we talked about Azania, let's just consider this as its possibilities. Is it possible? Kind of, I guess. Is it possible that the kingdom of Prester John survived? Definitely. I mean, Ethiopia survived for so long, and it was a Christian empire in a sea of Muslim states, so it's possible that Azania as well survived. But is it possible that they reached all this far away? It was also the possibility that it could be something else. We saw in the map of Terra Infinita of Nos Confunden the possibility of wormholes just opening up and people being transported from one place to another immediately and without
they're catching up. Now we're talking wormholes and vortexes.
Any stopping. So there is the possibility of just that happening, and then just going from the old kingdom of Prester John to the new kingdom of Prester John, and without any way to just do anything about it. So there's almost many hypotheses we can talk about.
Yeah, like suspended animation. Oh man, hey, out to Italian PNC. Go get the drop, man. Go get the drop. There's a lot of hypotheses around this Prester investigation, whether you're talking Worlds Beyond the Poles or whether you're talking the Voynich manuscript in Yale University, the Harvard studies in the academia, the Arthurian studies, Arthurian King Arthur studies, of course, the India Superior American studies, the vortex is right. Oh, man, I mean, you could talk biblical when you talk Prester John. You can get into the Mongol flow and talk Genghis Khan, and you're still talking Prester John. And it always keeps coming home, man. You know where Ethiopia is, man. You know where Abyssinia is. So you know where the Emperado El Prester, is, man. And, we out of here, man. I'm going to meditate on the Voynich on the way out, if you don't mind. And just know we here, man. We'll pick it up. I'm meant to get some Lost Tribes. We'll get Lost Tribes next time for sure. Get back in the Prester John legend and sources for sure.